Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to the Snail Legs channel. Real quick, I just want to say thank you for 500 subscribers. The response to my last video has been absolutely wild. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. This week, I'm going to be telling you some of the line art secrets I've learned over the years. I struggled to draw clean and accurate lines for a very long time, but now I actually enjoy doing line art and find it can be quite relaxing. How did I get here? Let's get into it. So I think there are a couple of things that have helped me find my footing when it comes to making line art, and those have been 1. Measure twice, cut once, 2. Experimentation with different tools and techniques, 3. Improved line confidence, and 4. The humble undo button and eraser. Let's start with this concept of measure twice, cut once. I first learnt this in my secondary school resistant materials class, but it can be applicable to drawing as well. What I mean by this is you're going to have an easier time drawing your line art if you're working from a sketch that's already clear in its intention. So I'd like to share how I prepare my sketches for line art. Currently, I tend to do 2 rounds of sketching before line art, a thumbnail sketch and a more refined sketch that I clean up as I go along. But sometimes it may make more sense to do more rounds of sketching in between these 2. For example, one sketch to pin down perspective, another for form, and another for anatomy. Sometimes the sketches in between are even just tweaks to smaller parts of the whole, the same sketch with elements that have been edited or redrawn. I like to view drawing as an iterative process. My final sketch is the foundation that I build my lines on, so the 2 should end up looking really close, save for the cleanness of the lines. The downside to this method can be a feeling of stiffness. The thumbnail sketches tend to be the loosest and most freeform, so the more layers of sketching I have between that and the final sketch, the more distant the line art is from that looser initial expression of the idea. The upside is that it's all thinking time. Things are going to change as you take your time exploring the composition and trying to find ways to improve the piece. Some of the original intention might be lost or transformed in this process as you find new ways to express what you're feeling. Another aspect of preparing my sketches for line art for me is turning the opacity of the sketch layer all the way down, as low as I can go until I can only just barely see it. The reason for this is that my line art needs to be able to stand on its own when it's done, and for me, having my sketch layer at like 10% opacity really helps me focus on how the line art itself is looking as I'm drawing it, rather than how the line art looks when combined with the sketch behind it. When sketching, shapes are often described by multiple overlapping strokes, but when it comes to drawing line art, it's all about narrowing those strokes down into a single line that best describes the shape you're trying to convey. In this sense, the sketch is just a guide. It's a tool, not a rule. So I think it's really important to find a way to shift my focus from the sketch to the line art. And while I usually do this by setting my sketch layer to a silly low opacity, that's not the only way. A couple other things you can try include changing the color of the sketch layer or blurring it, possibly even in combination. I'd also suggest periodically zooming out, flipping the canvas, and/or turning off the sketch layer entirely to get even more of a feel for how things are coming along. These are useful diagnostic tools for spotting problems with the image that you hadn't noticed whilst drawing it. Being able to do stuff like that is a massive benefit of being a digital artist, in my opinion. Let's move on to discuss experimentation. Experimentation is important because it's how you find out how you enjoy drawing. This can mean trying out different brushes and mediums, as well as different styles of line art. A couple of aspects to consider here are 1. How textured do you want your lines to be? Do you want the texture to come more from the brush strokes themselves or from the actual brush you're using? 2. Do you want to utilize line weight? In what way and how much? 3. Are you going for chunky lines or thin lines, and how does this affect the amount of detail you can draw? Which style is most comfortable to you? It can be helpful to start by dissecting what you like about other artists' work. How do they use their lines? What do you like about that, and how can you incorporate it into your own work? Is this a way you enjoy drawing? But you can also start from a place of downloading loads and loads of brushes from the internet and trying them all out. This is what I tend to do. The brush I draw with usually has quite a strong influence over how I draw my lines. Finally, let's touch on line confidence and some exercises you can use to develop it. Line confidence is pretty much what it says on the tin. It's how confidently, how decisively you draw your lines. In general, you want to be drawing quick, confident, continuous strokes if you're going for a cleanly lined look. A lot of this is about building sort of a flow state, a rhythm to your pen strokes. But this is easier said than done, so I want to share some exercises you can use to build some confidence in your lines. We'll go from the easiest exercises to the harder ones, and I'm going to run through quite a few, so feel free to pick and choose whichever sound the most interesting to you. You can also use these as warm-ups for before you start future drawing sessions. And one last thing to keep in mind before we start. I want you to try to draw from your elbow and your shoulder as well as from your wrist and your fingers. If I move my arm up above my head from a resting position at my side, it moves in an arc from the shoulder, right? Moving my arm from the elbow creates a smaller, similar arc, as does moving from the wrist and the fingers. As artists, we're always battling with the risk of developing repetitive strain injuries like carpal tunnel. You do not want carpal tunnel. I do not want carpal tunnel. So instead of over-relying on the movement from your wrists and hands to draw lines, consider mixing things up and using your elbow and shoulder to draw as well, particularly for longer lines. This will feel unnatural to start with. If you don't already draw like this, try practicing it while you work through these exercises. Number 1. Draw a crappy horse. A wise man once told me a secret technique for overcoming the fear of the blank page. I'm sharing it with you now because I think it's important to have a bit of fun and make space to acknowledge that these exercises don't have to look good, and in fact will probably look a bit wonky. So, today, in this video, we will warm up by setting a 1-minute timer and drawing a crappy horse, from memory. This is supposed to loosen you up a bit and get the first bad drawing out of the way, so that you feel more comfortable making further bad drawings. To encourage you, me and my friends will do this one in real time, and I'm inviting you to draw along with us. Moving on from our delightfully crappy horses, let's do some ghosted lines. This one is here to help with accuracy and confidence building. Start by drawing 2 points on your canvas. Then practice joining the dots with a long sweeping stroke without making a mark yet. When confident in the action, draw the line for real, and then rinse and repeat until you have a whole page's worth. You can then expand on this exercise by using ghosted lines to build up planes and boxes. We'll also do some just straight accuracy drills. You'll be forced to draw a lot of smooth lines here, so it should help a bit with confidence as well. On grid paper, or with a grid turned on in your art program of choice, draw a series of parallel lines. First, fill the page with vertical lines, then try a page of horizontal lines. Try to make the lines as neat and accurate as you can without using a ruler. If you're feeling spicy, you could try filling a page with diagonal lines as well. To expand on this exercise, you could try adding pen pressure into the mix too. Have the thickness of your lines go up and down, and try to draw each consecutive line with the opposite thicknesses. Another way to potentially expand on this one is to draw a shape and then make echoes of its outline, creating a rippling sort of effect. Now that we've built up some accuracy, let's loosen up with some continuous line drawings. As well as drawing more loosely and freely, I want you to consider how you use line to describe forms and edges. First, find a reference picture of a subject you feel fairly comfortable drawing. Then, make sure you're sitting comfortably and put pen to paper. Try to draw a study of the reference without lifting your pen until you're finished. Personally, I'd probably only give myself a minute or two for each one. Draw a couple, and when you're feeling suitably loosened up, move on from them. A way to expand on this one if you'd like is to draw it blind. In this variant, you can look at the reference but not at your drawing until you've lifted your pen. So the last exercise I'll show you today is sketchless studies. It's one of the harder exercises on the list, and the goal is to get you to consider how you're using lines and why. Every mark you make should have a very clear purpose. Once again, start by finding a reference picture of a subject you feel somewhat comfortable drawing already. Then, it may help to spend some time familiarizing yourself with the shapes and forms of the reference before you begin the sketchless study proper. Once you're happy with your understanding of the ref, clear your canvas and start drawing. The catch here is that I want you to draw as if you're lining an invisible sketch. It's probably going to come out looking a little wonky, but I want you to really consider each line before you draw it. What shape are you trying to describe, and what's the best line to describe it with? You can take this in as simple or as complex of a direction as you'd like, but I'd err on the side of simple in this case where possible. To expand on this one, you can also try doing it without using the undo or eraser tools. Hopefully you had a little fun with at least one of the exercises here. Again, try not to worry too much if things came out a bit wonky. The point of doing studies and exercises is not to make something that looks appealing, the point is to learn something or to warm up. I'd also like to note here that ultimately one of the best ways to increase line confidence is just to draw a lot. In my experiences, the way I get myself to draw a lot is by working on projects like comics that require a lot of art, or just drawing things I like. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helped you in one way or another. If you'd like to see more of my work, consider heading over to my website or itch.io pages for my comics and zines. And if you'd like to see more videos from me, subscribe to my channel. Bye, have a nice day.